Hello, I'm Devapratim Purkayastha, and I'm going to present the Dark Side case, Elizabeth Holmes and the Rise and Fall of Theranos Inc. I have written this case with Sanjeev Datta and Suvanjali Chakrabarti at the ICFI Business School, Hyderabad. This is a unique case about the rise and fall of a company and the entrepreneur behind it. It is a real chiller. Theranos Inc. was a US-based healthcare startup that offered blood testing for medical investigations using just a finger prick of blood, thus promising to make blood testing accessible, affordable, and less painful. Theranos was founded in 2003 by a 19-year-old Stanford dropout, Elizabeth Holmes. Holmes had invented a device for blood testing in 2005 and named it Theranos 1.0, though it failed to get into the market as it was challenged by scientists and staff of her own company. 2 years later, Holmes remodeled the product to create another product edition, which also failed to convince the scientists at Theranos. Nevertheless, Holmes went ahead and ignored the discordant notes in the company and commercialized the product. Now, this edition used a nanotainer, that is a small device designed to draw, retain, and analyze a droplet of blood from a patient's finger tip. And the company claimed that edition could run multiple tests on a patient's physiology within just minutes, and this could be done at a much lower cost than the available alternatives. Holmes could attract the attention and support from prominent people such as Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, and many more, and also attracted many well-known investors. Holmes and close confidant Ramesh Balwani, who was the president and chief operating officer of Theranos, were able to forge a partnership with Walgreens, which is one of the leading pharma retail chains in the US, in 2009, and retail giant Safeway in 2010. In 2011, Holmes created a new device which she called MiniLab, and she claimed that it could perform up to 200 blood tests using just a finger prick of blood. Theranos used its MiniLabs at different Walgreens and Safeway stores, despite continuing objections from scientists at Theranos. In 2014, Theranos was valued at a whopping $9 billion US, and Holmes' net worth also rose to $5 billion US, and she was widely feted as a woman leader and the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. She was featured in prominent magazines and publications such as Forbes, Fortune, and since Holmes idolized the late Steve Jobs of Apple fame, and she dressed up like him in black turtlenecks during company AGMs and media interactions, and also allegedly imitated Steve Jobs' mannerisms. This led to a lot of attention on Elizabeth Holmes as well as her company. But soon it was evident that Holmes had been lying all along about the authenticity of the blood test reports to her investors and business partners, and how the tests have been conducted using conventional techniques and not through MiniLab. The drop of blood that was taken from a finger prick was diluted to make them into larger samples that were tested using conventional testing devices. Holmes also allegedly lied about Theranos' revenue figures to investors. In 2014, 3 whistleblowers at the company came out to reveal all alleged lies, unethical practices, and the false test results at Theranos, which posed tremendous threat to patients and customers at large. Holmes and Balwani allegedly retaliated by using bullying tactics to silence the dissenters. They allegedly perpetrated a culture of fear in the company and often berated and fired dissenters. Then the dissenters were also threatened with violation of non-disclosure agreements, and the company also engaged whistleblowers in lengthy and costly litigation. Now, in 2015, most of the truth about Theranos was revealed by Wall Street investigative reporter John Kerrido. And in the following year, the partnership of Theranos with both Walgreens and Safeway came to an end, and the company also faced numerous lawsuits from its partners, patients, and investors. In 2018, around September, the company Theranos went defunct, and the following year, Holmes and Balwani had both been indicted by a federal grand jury of the US on 9 counts of fraud in raising funds for the company and for putting its customers at risk. Now, this case puts the spotlight on the dark side of entrepreneurship. It shows how a $9 billion company was built on the foundation of lies and deceit, how this company was widely hailed as a revolutionary company in the field of healthcare, and the entrepreneur, Elizabeth Holmes, was widely fitted as a strong leader. So this case raises critical questions regarding whether such lies by entrepreneurs is a necessary evil to gain legitimacy and can be condoned, or should startups be held to the same standard as we now hold the most mature public company? At Theranos, it turned out that the success was built not only on lies and deceit, but by also intimidating and victimizing employees and whistleblowers. So the case also shows how organizations use their power and resources to silence dissenting voices. Moreover, as the Theranos operated in the healthcare industry, where its products were designed to offer blood testing for medical investigations, false tests could put the customers at risk by compromising their health and even their life. For instance, false negatives can lull patients into a false sense of security, whereas a false positive can lead to unimaginable mental trauma and financial duress due to costly follow-up tests and even hospitalization. And just think about the vulnerable segments of the population, like children, pregnant women, people with critical illnesses who were subjected to such tests. The case enables students to understand the dark side of entrepreneurship and the need for entrepreneurs to adhere to ethical considerations. The case also enables students to understand the issues of entrepreneurs engaging in such questionable ethical behaviors, including telling legitimacy lies, the role of business ethics in the long-term sustenance of an organization, and the importance of corporate governance in the functioning of a company. The case also enables students to understand how leadership shapes the organization culture and governance practices in an organization. The case can be used for teaching the course of entrepreneurship and leadership, and also courses in business ethics and corporate governance, both at the graduate and undergraduate level, for teaching topics such as the dark side of entrepreneurship, new venture legitimacy, the issue of legitimacy lies, and the ethics and the entrepreneur. It can also be used for teaching topics related to understanding ethics, managing business ethics. Some of the suggested assignment questions are: what are the unethical practices seen in Theranos which led to the fall of the company? A follow-up question can be: in the light of the issues raised in the case, discuss whether it is a necessity for entrepreneurs to lie or stretch or twist the truth in order to acquire resources needed for farm. Should startups be held to the same standards as we now hold the most mature public companies? Another follow-up question can be: explain the role of ethics and morality in business, elaborate in the context of Theranos Inc. And finally, with reference to Theranos, analyze the role of corporate governance in the long-term functioning of an organization. Researchers have found that in their effort to gain legitimacy, entrepreneurs and startups may sometimes resort to questionable ethical behavior, including telling lies or by intentionally misrepresenting facts. Rutherford et al. In 2009 defined the legitimacy lie as an entrepreneur's intentional misrepresentation of the facts in an effort to encourage various stakeholders to deem them as a legitimate entity, to take them more seriously. Such legitimacy lies can be effective and even necessary for building an initial base of social acceptance and gaining resources for their survival and growth. So entrepreneurs tell legitimacy lies to improve their chances of acquiring resources needed for farm survival and growth. So in a way, entrepreneurs in a startup are not only uniquely encouraged to lie, but are also more likely to gain from that lie. There are also certain conditions under which the investors forgive the entrepreneur's lie. However, this could have ominous consequences for an entrepreneurial firm and for other stakeholders. This case shows the dark side of entrepreneurship, where we have seen how Holmes misleads the investors with her false claims at great cost to other stakeholders such as patients, doctors, business partners, and even investors. It also shows the dark side of storytelling. Leaders and entrepreneurs often resort to storytelling, as it can be a powerful mode of communication. It can also be used to create a false narrative. Storytelling dials up emotion and suspends rationality and clouds objective analysis. In this case, we saw a total lack of critical thinking on the part of key stakeholders such as investors, business partners, influential members of public, and the media. The fear of missing out prompted investors and business partners to suspend their better judgment. And adulatory technology reporting by media is also a problem, as such reportage incentivizes and emboldens entrepreneurs like Holmes to keep spinning such self-serving stories at the cost of other stakeholders. This dark side of contemporary capitalism also penalizes entrepreneurs who are humble and honest, about how their companies will grow by starving them of their fair share of funds and attention. Theranos could, however, hardly be called a startup at the stage where it started getting into the problem, and the lies it perpetrated can hardly be called legitimacy lies. The gap between what Holmes claimed and what she had really achieved were not simple lies, but became a massive fraud. It clearly looks like the handiwork of a sociopath. Nevertheless, I believe that this case can lead to great discussions in the classroom. Your students can be really enthused about this case, and there can be some very nice discussion on why entrepreneurs are forced to lie and whether they should indeed be lying, and what are the related ethical considerations. The case also shows a complete failure of corporate governance at Theranos. We have seen how the board miserably failed in their ethics and financial oversight. It seems that the high-profile board set up by Holmes were more to gain influence and legitimacy for the startup and the entrepreneur in order to attract investors and avoid scrutiny rather than for actual oversight responsibility. The case also shows the consequences for unethical behavior. Employing popular maxims like fake it until you make it in an industry as critical as the healthcare industry with life and death implications ultimately brought around the downfall of Theranos and its founder. So these are some of the linkages to theory. Since I have focused more on the dark side of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship and the dark side of entrepreneurship, I have also used this set of additional readings, which I've used found very useful for this case. I'm sure you will be knowing of more relevant papers which you can use while you take this case to the classroom. Thank you so much.